You are living someone else's version of your life. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in the thousands small moments where you adjust what you say, how you dress, what you pursue, what you hide, all to avoid disapproval from people whose opinions should not matter more than your own sense of truth. Carl Jung called this the tyranny of the collective. And in 2026, with everyone performing their curated existence online, with every choice potentially becoming content, with approval metrics literally built into the platforms you use every day, this tyranny has never been more sophisticated or more soul-destroying. You are not weak for seeking approval. You are human, but you are also capable of choosing yourself. And that choice, made daily in 5 specific ways, is what separates people who individuate from people who spend their entire lives as extras in someone else's story. Let me be clear about what we are actually talking about. Seeking approval is not the same as caring about people. It is not the same as being kind or considerate or socially aware. Seeking approval is when you betray your own knowing to maintain an image, when you silence your truth to keep the peace, when you perform a version of yourself that feels safe but costs you everything that makes you real. Jung understood that the persona, the social mask we all wear, is necessary for navigating the world. But when the persona becomes more real to you than the self beneath it, when you start to believe your own performance, when you cannot tell the difference between who you are and who you pretend to be, you have crossed into psychological fragmentation. And that fragmentation will destroy you slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize you have been living a life you do not even recognize as your own. Here is the uncomfortable truth that no one wants to say out loud. Most of the approval you are chasing is coming from people who are also performing, also fragmented, also desperately seeking validation they will never find externally. You are in a hall of mirrors, seeking reflection from other reflections and wondering why you still feel empty. The applause you receive for your persona does nothing for your actual self. It only strengthens the mask. It only deepens the split. And the more approval you get for being someone you are not, the more terrified you become of being who you actually are. So let us talk about the 5 ways to choose yourself in 2026. Not as theory, not as philosophy, but as daily psychological practice. The first way to choose yourself is to stop explaining your choices to people who are not living your consequences. You make a decision, career change, relationship boundary, creative pursuit, something that feels true to you, and immediately the voices arrive. Family members with concerns, friends with opinions, strangers on the internet with judgments. And you feel this compulsion to justify yourself, to make them understand, to get their approval before you proceed. This is the ego trying to avoid the discomfort of standing alone. But Jung would tell you that individuation requires you to tolerate that discomfort. It requires you to make choices based on your internal authority, not external consensus. Look at someone like Kanye West. Say what you want about his choices, but that man has never waited for permission to be himself. He creates from his own vision, regardless of whether it fits what people expect. Now, you do not have to be that extreme. You do not have to be controversial or provocative. You just have to stop needing everyone to agree with your life before you live it. Because here is what happens when you constantly explain and justify. You start to doubt yourself. You start to edit your choices before you even make them. You start to believe that your knowing is less valid than their opinion. And slowly, you lose touch with what you actually want because you have been outsourcing that decision to people who will never have to live with the results. Here is what choosing yourself looks like in practice. You make a choice, someone questions it, and instead of launching into a defense, you simply say, "I appreciate your perspective, but this is what feels right for me." That is it. No explanation, no justification, no attempting to convert them to your worldview. You are not being rude, you are being boundaried. You are respecting their right to their opinion while not allowing that opinion to override your own internal compass. Try this once, just once. Make a decision, tell someone about it, and when they push back, do not explain. Notice what happens in your body. Notice the urge to defend. Notice the fear that they will think less of you. And then notice that you survive that fear. That their disapproval does not actually destroy you. That you are still whole, still here, still capable of choosing yourself even when they do not understand. The second way to choose yourself is to stop performing your transformation for an audience. This one is subtle. This one catches even people who think they are doing the work. You start therapy. You read Jung. You begin shadow work. You make changes, and then you post about it. You share your breakthroughs. You document your journey. And there is nothing inherently wrong with that. except when you notice that you are more invested in the performance of transformation than in the actual integration. When you are more focused on how your growth looks to others than on whether it is real. When you start curating your healing for likes and comments and validation. Jung called this spiritual materialism, though he used different language. It is when you collect insights and practices and breakthroughs not for your own development, but to build a more impressive persona. You are not actually changing. You are just performing change in a more sophisticated way. And the proof is in what happens when no one is watching. Do you still do the work when there is no content opportunity? Do you still sit with your shadow when you cannot share the revelation? Do you still choose the hard truth when it will not generate engagement? Think about someone like Oprah. Yes, she shares her journey publicly, but you can feel the difference between her sharing from integration versus sharing for approval. There is a groundedness. There is a realness. There is not this desperate need for you to validate her growth. She is simply offering what she has learned, and if it resonates, great. If it does not, she is still whole. That is the difference. When you are choosing yourself, your transformation does not require an audience. It happens in the quiet. It happens in the unsexy daily work of noticing your patterns, integrating your shadow, sitting with discomfort without immediately turning it into content. Here is the practice. Take one area of your life where you are working on growth and make it completely private for the next 30 days. No posting, no sharing, no documenting, just you and the work, and see what happens. See if your commitment wavers when there is no external validation. See if you are actually doing this for yourself or if you have been performing it for approval all along. This is not about shaming yourself. This is about getting honest. Because you cannot individuate while you are performing individuation. The two are incompatible. The third way to choose yourself is to let people be wrong about you without correcting them. This might be the hardest one. Someone misunderstands your intentions. Someone spreads a story about you that is not true. Someone has an opinion about who you are that does not match your reality. And every cell in your body wants to correct them to set the record straight, to make sure they see you accurately. But Jung would ask, why do you need them to see you accurately? What are you defending? And more importantly, who are you defending it to? When you are constantly managing other people's perceptions of you, you are living in reaction. You are letting their misunderstanding dictate your energy, your attention, your peace. You are giving them power over your internal state. And the irony is that the more you try to correct their perception, the more you confirm that their opinion matters to you. The more you chase their approval, the more you prove you need it. Look at how someone like Keanu Reeves moves through the world. Stories get written about him. Assumptions get made. And he just keeps living his life with integrity. He does not need to control the narrative. He does not need everyone to understand him. He trusts that his character will speak for itself to the people who matter, and for everyone else, their misunderstanding is not his burden to carry. That is psychological freedom. That is what it looks like to choose yourself over the exhausting work of managing everyone's opinion. Here is the truth that will set you free. You could spend your entire life correcting people's misperceptions of you, and there would still be people who misunderstand. There would still be people who judge. There would still be people who get it wrong, because their perception is not about you. It is about them. It is filtered through their projections, their wounds, their unconscious material, and you are not responsible for managing that. Your responsibility is to live with integrity and let your life be the truth that speaks louder than any defense you could offer. Try this. Next time someone has the wrong idea about you, do nothing. Let them be wrong. Notice the discomfort. Notice the urge to fix it, and then let it go. Trust that the people who are meant to see you will see you. Trust that your worth is not determined by universal understanding. Trust that you can be misunderstood and still be whole. The fourth way to choose yourself is to stop asking for permission to take up space. You have something to say, but you wait for the right moment. You have something to create, but you wait until you are more qualified. You have something to offer, but you wait until someone invites you. And what you are really doing is asking the world to validate your existence before you allow yourself to exist fully. Jung saw this pattern clearly. He saw that most people live as though they need permission to be themselves, as though their right to take up space must be earned through achievement or approval or some external validation. But your existence is not conditional. Your voice is not something you earn. Your space is already yours. Think about someone like Brené Brown. She did not wait for academia to validate her research on vulnerability before she started talking about it. She did not wait for permission to say uncomfortable truths about shame and courage. She took up space because she had something real to offer, and she trusted that more than she feared disapproval. And yes, people criticized her. People dismissed her. People said she was not academic enough, not rigorous enough, not whatever enough. And she kept taking up space anyway, because she chose herself over their approval. You do not need to be perfect to contribute. You do not need to be the most qualified person in the room to speak. You do not need to wait until you have eliminated all self-doubt before you take action. You just need to stop pretending that your hesitation is about readiness when it is actually about fear of judgment. You are waiting for a guarantee that you will be received well, that people will approve, that you will not be criticized. But that guarantee does not exist, and waiting for it is just another way of choosing their comfort over your truth. The fifth way to choose yourself is to build a life that does not require constant validation to feel real. This is the deepest work. This is where most people stay stuck their entire lives. You achieve something. You feel good for a moment. Jung called this the development of the self with a capital, as it is the part of you that exists independent of roles, achievements, or other people's opinions. It is the awareness that witnesses your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances, and remains steady regardless of what is happening externally. Building a relationship with this self is what frees you from the need for constant approval. Because when you are rooted in your own being, when you know yourself beyond what you do or what others think, external validation becomes irrelevant. Nice maybe, but not necessary. Look at how someone like LeBron James has evolved. Early in his career, every criticism seemed to affect him. He needed to prove himself. He needed approval. But as he matured, as he did his own inner work, you can see the shift. He still competes. He still achieves. But there is a groundedness now. There is a sense that his worth is not conditional on winning every game or receiving universal praise. He knows who he is, and that knowing is not up for debate. Here is the practice. Every day, spend time doing something that has no external validation attached to it. No metrics, no audience, no proof. Maybe you sit in silence. Maybe you journal. Maybe you take a walk without tracking your steps. The activity does not matter. What matters is that you are cultivating the experience of being enough without needing the world to confirm it. You are learning that your existence has inherent value, not because of what you produce or how you perform, but simply because you are. And the more you practice this, the less you need approval, the less you need to perform, the less you need to explain or defend or justify. You simply are. And from that place of being, you choose yourself every single day, in every decision, in every boundary, in every moment where the world offers you approval in exchange for your soul. And you say, no, thank you. I already know who I am. This is not easy work. This is not a quick fix. You are undoing years, maybe decades, of conditioning that taught you to prioritize other people's comfort over your own truth. You are interrupting patterns that have been running unconsciously since childhood. You are choosing to individuate in a world that profits from your fragmentation. But this is the only work that matters. This is the only transformation that lasts. Because everything else, every achievement, every relationship, every experience will be filtered through your relationship with yourself. And if that relationship is built on the need for external approval, nothing will ever be enough. But if that relationship is built on internal authority, on self-trust, on the willingness to choose yourself even when it is uncomfortable, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you are no longer giving the world power over your sense of worth. You have reclaimed that power. You have brought it home. And from that place, you can finally live.